The passionate leader. Because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an IV bond of a firefighter. It's on island urgent. Transmit a second aloft.
Ask yourself this: what kind of leader would you rather follow? The one who demands respect or the one who earns it? By the time today's conversation is over, I have no doubt we will know what kind of leader our guest is. Justin Champion is a combat veteran, firefighter, and mental health advocate with nearly 2 decades of service in uniform, both in the battlefield and the firehouse. As the founder of From the Ashes 505 and an instructor with the New Mexico State Fire Academy, Justin brings raw insight into aggressive firefighting, authentic leadership, and the mental health battles first responders can't afford to ignore. A decorated Army NCO turned fire service leader, Justin has served as a company officer and deputy chief, earning respect by evolving from a hard-charging but approachable boss into unapproachable boss into a leader who values leading, mentorship, and building trust. He holds extensive certifications, including Fire Officer 4, ISFSI live fire instructor, hazardous materials tech. He's an ARFF firefighter, tactical medical practitioner, and multiple CPSC designations, including fire officer and chief training officer. Justin's passion lays in raising the standard of the fire service through realistic training, honest leadership, and addressing the mental IDLH head on. He speaks openly about breaking the stigma around firefighter mental health, pushing firefighters to be sharper, tougher, and more resilient without losing sight of their humanity. When he's not training the firefighters across New Mexico, Justin is dedicated to his family, traveling, staying fit, and being active in his church. What drives him is simple: leaving the fire service better than he found it, one firefighter at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Our guest this evening, Justin Champion. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no. So for those that have not had to see the fight that you and I just made with technology to get this damn show to even happen, it's been no small feat. Is there anything that I either left out, misspoke of, or that you want to add to your bio?
No, I think that nails it on the head and kind of makes me sound better than I really am, brother.
No, like I say before I even typically record, is a lot of times the guests give me a very bland bio, and everybody that's on the show deserves a hell of a shout out. So I try to give it as much polish as we can, because we certainly, every firefighter does. So obviously, we're both of us are in the fire service. We've kind of found, cross paths by way of, social media and our influence in our different ends of the world. But I kind of want to hit it right from the very beginning. You've led in combat and in the firehouse, obviously two of the toughest places to earn respect. What has been the biggest leadership lesson that carried over from one profession to the other for you?
I think for me, coming from the military into the fire service was just different battlefield, same brotherhood. You know what I mean? A lot of the things that we learn in the military transfer into the fire service itself, from putting others first. That's kind of where I got my leadership style from. And, of course, over the years, I adjusted that. But just putting your guys first and, yourself last. So I think that transferred over for me.
Yeah. So even getting into the military, what sort of was the driving, desire for you to serve the nation?
Going through high school, through being a kid, my dad was in the military.
Okay.
And just
Yep.
just watching him and doing his thing, and he was a Green Beret, so he was like deep into it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just watching him and being around it, really, like, because he used to take me out there all the time, and I'm seeing these like really high standard guys do their thing, and that made me want to do it. I applied to colleges in high school and stuff, but I knew what I wanted to do. So I graduated, hung out for a little bit, and then just went down to the recruiter, and I literally walked in and said, "Who wants to sign somebody up today?" And
That's awesome.
that's where the journey began.
Yeah. Now in the fire service, are you first generation firefighter, or was your,
First,
anybody from?
yep, first
So
generation,
in
man.
just and I feel what is nice with the fire service is, honestly, we get a lot of crossover from people who were in the military or still are in the military. That's you guys just you're I know some people say that just firefighters in general are kind of um sick in the head, but I can tell you those that that serve in the military and want to still do it when you come back stateside is pretty damn impressive. I'm not gonna lie. It takes a very special breed. And on behalf of the passionate leader following, thank you obviously for your service to our country.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And it's through dedication and commitment to people who serve in the battlefields and serve, behind the scenes and in all aspects of all of the branches of the military that allow us to get onto shows and, podcasts like this and have platforms where we can go and spout off about having a bad day because the boss was a prick. And you guys are like, you have no idea, man. I think that's the best part is you guys have, secured our freedom in the best damn country in the whole world. So for that, we are forever indebted to those that serve and protect our country. So move, go through the military, serve your time, and then you kind of come back, join the fire service. And you've admitted you were, sometimes you weren't the most approachable because one of the things that was in your bio was that you've learned sometimes. And this kind of takes, this is a level of humility before we go really too far. I mean, the ability for you to even say, hey man, sometimes I wasn't the easiest to approach. That takes a lot. And I think that is where a lot of our breakdown in the fire services is with the lack of humility to be like, man, I could have approached that situation better. So, I mean, clearly you were able to do that. So admitting that you weren't approachable, how did the shift happen? Was it just sort of overnight, or did you kind of realize that, more and more people just really weren't, hanging around and stuff like that? Kind of what was the catalyst that really opened your eyes that, maybe made you realize you weren't so approachable?
Well, for me, coming from the military and being so structured and it's like do as I say, right? And
Hmm.
without question. Where it really started hitting me was you know how people talk around like they knew I was a good fireman, they knew I was a good fire officer. But you hear things, right? Like guys are like, I'm not, they didn't really want to approach me and talk to me about things because they knew I wouldn't take it right. And and really for me, instead of like lashing back out or I kind of took that to heart and listened because my guys have always come first. And to hear
Hmm.
that kind of turned a switch in me with like maybe I need to change the way I do things. And talking to some of my mentors, um, kind of changed that for me. And they're like, hey, it's not the military anymore. Yeah, it's paramilitary, but it's not the military. And
Sure.
that's kind of where the paradigm changed for me, where I listen to guys more. And now it kind of it shifted when I did some self reflection and was like, yeah, these guys are right. Maybe I'm not as approachable as I want
Mm.
to be. So, that's where it shifted. Is talking to my mentors and just saying, hey, what am I doing wrong? I think as leaders, we've got to do that. Self reflection is big, right? Look in the mirror. Am I doing everything I can for my guys? I thought I was, but listening and understanding them and letting them be able to speak freely to you is a whole different ballgame. The good and the bad, right? The good and the
Oh
bad.
yeah. Yeah.
That's how you get better. So I think that's where it shifted for me, was just really some self reflection and knowing that I needed to work on that.
Mm. So when your mentors and stuff kind of gave you the feedback, were you immediately open to accepting the feedback, or was there a little bit of internal resistance with you?
No, no, it was like a shock. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I'm not the kind of guy that's just gonna take that and be like, yeah, whatever. Like I look up to those guys for a reason, and
Yeah.
I want to be like those guys. So um, it really hit me hard, and I just decided to change things, and it's been better ever since. I think I think as any leaders out there that are experiencing that, you really got to take that reflection, talk to your mentors, and take it to heart because you want what's best for your department and your guys. And it was immediate for me. I started working on it like that shift. You know what I mean? There was no I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait or they're full of shit. Like it
Sure.
was.
Sure.
I need to fix that right now.
No, I think that's honestly huge. And I mean, it is, there are some who have never had a military background that have that ability to gain the humility, but I wouldn't be willing, or I'd sorry, I'd be willing to bet that having your background, you understood respect for the structure, and when your mentor said something, you believe it. 'Cause I can tell you. So for me, I have not served our country in any way, shape, or form other than in the first responder world. Here in the fire service. And I've had some people that I would take their stuff for gospel, and they said something, at first I was like, no, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. But it's sort of like mom and dad when they tell you something, you're like, yeah, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then all of a sudden, flash forward a year or two, like, Jesus, they were right. And there's some humble pie. It has to be eaten there. So that's no, that's awesome. For our listeners, for the officer that might be listening right now, who's kind of struggling to connect with their crew, what's one thing that they could do today that they could help to start build that trust with their crew?
I would say just build that credibility, and that starts with self reflection, and that starts with proving to them that you have competence and self accountability. If you're not doing something right, fix it and listen to them. Like they might come and tell you, hey, here's you're messing up here. Don't have that ego to where
Mm,
you're not willing to change, because just like the fire service is changing, you got to change as a leader. So, um, really, humility and accountability are the biggest two that really affected my career.
I love it. Now, so how about so I'll give you one that I get a lot, and it's honestly a harder one to answer sometimes. Is how do you go about starting the hard conversations with guys that I've had definitely some senior members who I've had to have that really hard conversation with, like, hey, maybe being the interior guy is not your time anymore. And so how would you recommend to, or how would you actually handle, I should say, starting and having that hard conversation with somebody that you really need to have, but it's gonna suck to have at the moment in time.
I've actually had that before, and what I do is I sit them down away from everybody else, and just get straight to the point. I'm a straight shooter, and I say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Um, like you said, maybe this part ain't for you, but you're an integral part of the team. We need you. We need that knowledge. We need what you can bring to the table. But maybe being on that nozzle is not for you, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
on the flip side, one thing that I learned that I still do today is I'll sit down with my crew and say, "Here's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing from me? What can I do to make the team better?" You know what I mean? And you have to have that two-way communication. So, um, to answer your question, if it's one guy that I think maybe would be better fit on the and that somewhere else on that team to make our team better, I'll just be straight with them. Hey, here's what I see. Going back to your analogy, I mean, you've been on the nozzle for 20 years. Maybe it's time to sit back, teach these guys a little something. And then on the flip side, hey, what do you need from me? You know what I mean? How can
Yeah.
I make the team better? Let's make the team better together.
I think your spin on taking them from being a student of the craft to now being the teacher of the craft is, it helps rephrase and rephrase their mindset to, okay, maybe not being a doer anymore, but when you give somebody that purpose to teach others, if they're still really eaten up by the job, um, they will certainly take to being like, oh man, I could shape our culture. Like, that's a heck of a way I like it. I found for me, the easiest way so far to address these hard conversations is to frame the conversation, to start off with what I need for the end result to be. um let's just say it's a firefighter that is doing something they shouldn't be doing. You don't really want to have this conversation, 'cause, I mean, hard conversations suck, but we have to have them, because without having them, we continue down the path that we have in the fire service of people who were in leadership roles who never should have been there because somebody didn't have that hard conversation in the past with them. And really, for me, what I found works the best is if you start the conversation with what you're expecting or what you really need the end result to be. So I'll give an example of a firefighter who, you could see he was kind of spiraling out a little bit. And actually, one of the questions in a few minutes about, kind of revolves around burnout. Um, is it was, I'm like, hey, I know, I can see something's going on. We need to correct your action that is happening. I've noticed some things that need to be fixed. And then I kind of went down the avenue and kind of letting them know this isn't going to be your typical, hey, what color fire truck do you like better, red or white type thing. It was definitely a hard conversation of, listen, I've noticed, you're slipping a little bit, and we need to get you back on track before this becomes a bigger problem. And it immediately it kind of, I don't want to say it puts them on notice, but it certainly makes it a lot easier for them. But I do like the spin on, hey, we got to take you off the knob. You maybe it's not what you need to be, but let's get you in a role where you can start teaching the younger men and women how to do what you do, so that I like the spin. I really do like the spin on that a lot, honestly. So that's that's great stuff. Oh, let me see. You've spoken on the need to kind of train for the fires that are coming, um, not the fire that we hope for. If you want to kind of walk through that thought process as far as what you meant by that in the intake form of you're preparing for the fire that is coming, not the fire that we hope for.
Yeah, the way I approach that is because I mean, you get stuck in that. Oh, we'll never have that fire, right? We'll never have that big um multi-story fire or anything like that. You've got to train to prepare for that, right? Prepare for the hardest thing you might face, and then everything else will be easy. So that's why I push so hard for realistic training, right? Not just a theatrical smoke-filled room or something like that. Like really train hard for those fires that you don't ever expect. Like for me, I was in a place that um we didn't have a lot of high-rise buildings or things like that, but we trained for it because we trained to that upper level to where we're prepared for anything that might get thrown at us. And then like something smaller than that, we're more than ready. So I say train your guys to, like I say, you're gonna fall back to your highest level of training, right? I want my highest level of training to be up here, not down
Sure.
here, right?
Yep.
So we prepare for the worst day that could happen. It may never come, but we're ready for it and we know what we're gonna do. And that way, anything in between that, it's just another day at work.
No, I love it. What so are you still currently a chief within the department, or are you in a different role now?
No, I'm just a instructor coordinator for the state, and then I work part time as a uh at another fire department here, a county fire department. So
Yeah,
still
no, that's
right.
good.
Yeah, I'm a part time lieutenant there, so I fill in for other lieutenants on the truck and stuff, and help with training and stuff like that. So
What so kind of holding a ton of different positions, throughout the fire service. What so far has been your favorite, whether it be one of the ones you're currently in now, or from just firefighter all the way through? What has been your most rewarding position that you've held so far?
I would have to say working in the training division. Before that, I would say working on an engine company because I was an engine guy, right? So I
Yeah,
mean,
yep.
but moving into the training division was probably one of the most rewarding because you get not only get to train guys on your department that have been there for a while or anything like, but you get to train the future. So like
Mm,
every academy class, you have a chance to make your mark. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
think as far as rewarding for myself, definitely the training division because nothing beats you know when that light bulb comes on when you're teaching a new recruit something. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah, if I could pick anything to go back to, it'd be a training division.
A lot. So, I don't want to say it's really a trick question, or trying to set you up. We hear a lot in the fire service that the next generation is not going to have what it takes to be firefighters. Obviously, being somebody who shapes the next future of the fire service, how would you kind of portray what you're seeing different between, say, our generation of firefighter and then what you're getting, for new recruits through the schools and the academies and stuff?
I think it's just a difference in mindset, right? Any you
Mm,
we can take anybody, and I think that's personally I think that's a fallacy. We can make firefighters, right? I just think that the mindset of the new firefighter is different than like our generation. They're more thinkers. They want to know the why behind things. When we were coming up, it was run through that wall. Okay, Roger that. You know what I mean? Now they want to know why I'm running through that wall or why I'm pulling this hose or why does the fire act like that. I think that we're kind of looking at it wrong. Maybe if you just write them off and say, oh, they don't have what it takes. That's in my experience, that's not true. I've had I've had some guys at 18, 19 years old that end up being bang up firefighters. You just got to mold them that way. You know what I mean?
mm.
And I think if we do that, that conversation won't need to be had. It's just a difference in mindset. That's it. You got to know who you're working with and how to train them.
Dude, it's a horrible question, honestly, for me to toss out there. But it's we hear it, at least in the northeast area of the states, is very heavy on the, the next generation doesn't know what to do. They can't even start a chainsaw, and um, I think personally, I feel it's a cop out for the for the older
Yes.
heads
Yes.
that are like, we just, because they honestly don't know what the why is. So it's easier to deflect away from having to answer the question and just blame it on the generational gap than it is to actually be like, well, so here's how the mechanics of a chainsaw work with the choke and the throttle, and it's got to be this, mixture of fuel, and this is why, so 100% it's a cop out, and I feel that we are actually some of them we're the more fortunate generation, because I think we are kind of in between the old mindset mentality and the new mindset of the Y, and being able to interact with the Y generation, the fire service Y generation, is honestly one of the coolest things ever, because it keeps us on our toes. We can't baffle them with bullshit like they used to back in
No.
the day. And it's so fun to watch old heads get called out and be like, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. Christ, I just commented on a random TikTok. It was a tool. I don't even know what the name of the tool is. It's apparently something that's very popular in Europe. It's, you attach it to a hose, and it's like, you can reach into like the second story window, and it does the hydro vent concept, but from the ground. And one of the comments that I saw, and I might be, I may be going down a dirty path here, so let's see what we can do. And the comment was to the effect, and now mind you, this room is at flash level. I mean, the flames are blowing out the window. And one of the comments was, because obviously you're hydro venting. The first comment that I of course I came across was, so are we not worried about steam victims anymore? And immediately, and I'm like, one, if we're worried about steaming victims in a room that's already flashed, we have far larger problems than giving them steam burns. They've already been burned to a crisp. And I'm not saying we shouldn't go in. That's not what I'm getting at here. But it's still the mindset of, and I think this is where a lot of people get confused with transitional attacks and going just straight in toward the fire, is the fear of steam burns. And I mean, if you look at the heat in a room that has fire in it and the temperature of steam, they're two drastically different things. They're already in a room that's hotter than steam, in my, and that's just, and I'm speaking out of my ass. So I mean, bear with me with it, but it's something that, at least in this neck of the woods, when, and of course, transitional attacks, and it's not been something it's not brand new to the service. It's not super old either. But that has always been the go-to answer from a lot of people is, well, you can't do that because you're going to steam the victims. So much beaten into my head that even me, I'm like, maybe you could. Like, no, dude, the room's already flashed. Like, yes, you'd be concerned about, causing secondary issues, but sometimes, and my first guest, was my mentor in life. He coined he didn't coin it, but he used the phrase from the movie Speed. Sometimes you have to shoot a victim. It's kind of how he's like, sometimes you got to look at the greater of the two evils, and whichever one's going to be better. That's my soapbox. And before I go drive it into a damn tree. So, but yeah, and but that is how the fire service is. Sometimes we get so set in that's how it's always been that way type thing, so it has to always remain that way. And I think one of the coolest things is the evolution of our nozzle over especially the last what, 6 to 12 months with Hen and all that coming into the circuit. And we brought in a sales company to at least show us so we can put our hands on these things. And we're going to work on getting somebody to actually come in and help us train with these. But immediately we're getting comments of, well, look how wide the pattern is, and you're only getting water out the two edges. And I'm like, do you not see the blade that's as wide as it's, the
Right.
I'm like, what?
Right.
And so like, well, it's, you're not going to get very good water application. I'm like, Are you not seeing how it's completely coating the walls as you're walking, crawling down the hallway? Plus, I mean, not even a salesman for Hen, but I am very much so having a close to adulterous affair with Hen nozzles because I think that they can do so much, especially for our neck of the woods in New England. We are very low staffed, and we're trying to make our water stretch as far as we can. So why wouldn't you want to have a tool that can help you spread the application that much farther across, across your room and contents fire? Be done with it in less water, and instead of having to worry with everything else. So it's a tool in a toolbox. But no, I mean I love it. So I mean, so kind of keep it on the training aspect. um Being in the training division in that world, where do you kind of see the biggest gap in the fire service training wise right now?
For me, honestly, just realistic training. A lot of
Mm,
guys wanna get on target solutions or whatever, and really, uh, a better way of saying is just click through their training, right?
yeah, yep.
And as firefighters, I mean, we don't need more PowerPoints. We need our hands on and high
Hmm.
rep drills. We need to get out there and we need to work with the equipment we're going to be working with. You're not going to take a computer to a fire and fight it with that, right? So
Right, right.
I think we get away from our roots, and I think we need to get out there on the training on the drill ground with live fire, with our equipment, and really train like we're gonna, train like you fight, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest gap is the lack of people wanting to get out there and really get after it. And that's the only way to train is to get out because, like I said, man, you're not gonna fight a fire with target solutions, right? So, I mean,
No,
get
you're
your
gonna get
tail out
bored
of
as
the
hell.
yeah, get your tail out of the doggone recliner. Get out there and spend a couple hours on the drill field. That's where our disconnect is right now that I've seen personally. I think we need to get out there and you know just repeatable drills, mask up, stretch lines, force doors, operate in zero visibility like you're going to be in when you go down that, when you go down that hallway. That's the only way to really train for what we do. Simulate that chaos, man, not just check a box.
Mm. No, I love it. So, and I think one of the things is I'm a big advocate for live fire trainings and stuff like that too. I think where we, at least in our neck of the woods, our academy here in the state of New Hampshire is definitely it's improved leaps and bounds from when I first joined the fire service. Where I think they just cannot replicate is a legitimate live fire, because it's a propane fired prop, and you can get heat in the ambiance of the flame, but man, you just cannot replicate a a full on room and contents where it's thick, acrid black smoke. And and it's tough. So, here obviously we do what we try to do, or what we can rather, to have, when we do get acquired structures, it is almost impossible for us to really make a true 1403 compliant, live fire with room and contents and stuff like that. I'm curious to see what your take is on this. I did hear on a show somewhere, I forget what show it is, where the subject matter expert on 1403 was making the point that if, we need to take the shingles off if we're going to burn the roof off the place. But if you don't burn the roof off the place, you're still tiptoeing the line of 1403. Is that something you kind of agree with? Or, I mean, long story short, I mean, it's so you get called into a small town to help with a 1403, live burn, as compliant as we can. Where are you seeing departments have the hardest time, achieve full compliance to the regulations?
For me, I might be the wrong one to ask. F I'm not a big fan of 1403. I've never hid that, because there's especially for acquired structures, there's so many benchmarks you have to hit
Yeah.
to make the house safe, right? And I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of fight and, training like we fight.
Hmm.
you're not going to take the shingles off a roof before you go to the house to fight fire and make it all safe. And that's just not how we're going to do it. And I understand safety and all that. We don't want to get guys hurt in training, but it's an inherently dangerous job. And if we're going to train that way, of course, have your safeties, have your interior safeties, but we've got to get back to training with things like you said. We've got to build fuel packages that mimic what we're going to see out there, right?
Yes.
That thick
Yep.
black smoke, not being able to see, like trying to find the seat of the fire, cutting holes in actual roofs. Like, I understand 1403 and I understand the safety thing. I'm just not a big proponent of it. I mean, we have to do it, I guess, but
Mm.
I'm down to go, like, let's light a house on fire and train like we mean it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's
sure.
that's my thing.
Yeah. We I think where the eye-opening experience needs to be for a lot of people is I have been fortunate enough to have been the officer on at least a handful of our firefighters' first ever legitimate interior attacks. And without fail, every single one has been, I didn't realize it was going to be that hot, or I'm surprised I couldn't see anything. And I'm like, we're burning, these hydrocarbon based, these freaking mattresses are they're essentially foam gasoline pads. I mean, what are you expecting to see when you burn these things? So I would certainly side, with you as far as I appreciate the intent, but I really feel that with a lot of heavy work, we can certainly improve that code. And I'm offering no help to do this, so I'm really, again, speaking from a soapbox, but I feel that there's got to be something we can do to make it easier because typically when you get an acquired structure, it's going to be the smaller town departments, the more rural based agencies that one don't even know that the code even exists. So now, I mean, they're already behind the eight ball before they even know that something is even there to do it. And again, there is really no legitimate way to take an acquired structure and make it, you know, without having to, financially burden the agency to put in, barrier walls and, burn boxes and again, I'm not complaining about it on a level of safety, but I feel that there needs to be some understanding that we have to train like we fight, and if we don't, that's how we're gonna bury ourselves in bad calls. And you're gonna find departments that have people who are in positions of being line officers that maybe have never actually experienced the heat of a full true ripping room and contents fire, or worse, a well-involved building fire. I don't really, I wish I knew what the answer to that was, because I'm obviously offering up issues on the problem, but I'm not offering up solutions to it.
And I think you're right. And the thing, what it comes down to then is, and I think sometimes we're overly, especially now in the fire service, we're overly using this word safety, right?
Hmm.
Safe, right? Well, if we just train to be safe, and that's where we fall short. We're training to go into these highly volatile, dynamic situations to save people, right? But we're not training for that. And as far as 1403 and acquired structures, even in a burn building, um, I think one of the ways that we can fix that is have guys that are monitoring the environment, know what they're
Hmm.
looking for, signs of flashover, all that, all that kind of stuff. Have people watching those things, and if something pops up, we pull everybody out. But let them train to that point to where we're training realistically, and we're
Hmm.
able that way. The first time you see hard pushing black smoke and high heat isn't the first time you go into a building to go get
Hmm.
somebody that you said you'd protect. You know what I mean? I think
Dude,
that
yeah, without it's like I said, I mean, having at least a handful of our men and women that have been like, I didn't expect, I can't see anything, it's so hot, it's just, it's insane. It really, and it's by no fault of our academy or anything like that. It is just, we're held to certain standards, and I'm going to butcher the phrase, and I hope I don't. Um, we are becoming more of a risk averse fire service than we are a risk aware. So by meaning that instead of being aware of the risks, we are more like, it all plays into our go no go. And I am a firm believer that even if the homeowners say everybody is out of that house, we're going in. And this is something that this is a hill I will die on, that our job is to go interior so long as the structure is not completely compromised. And our job is to search that damn thing, because you don't know if the neighbors next door ran in because they didn't see that the homeowners were out. So now you have, Bob Lee just, ran into the house because he thought that the Smiths were still inside. We'll come to find out they weren't even home. Well, now he goes and passes because we were told, nobody's home, so we're good to go. It's, if there's searchable space, our ass is to be inside that building, and I will die on that hill. And that it's, and I don't know if I thought about posting it or if I did post it, because I post every day on TikTok, so shit just bounces everywhere. But a lot of people honestly also mix the words aggressive and unsafe and feel that they're the same. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I other than just doing things that people feel are unsafe and then just showing, no, we're okay, like things are good, but we have to do aggressive things in the fire service if we want to actually, fulfill our duties to our citizens.
Yeah, being aggressive doesn't mean being reckless. Being aggressive is calculated. It goes back to your training. If I train for the worst day, if I'm training how I fight, if I'm out there doing what I need to do every day to prepare myself, I can. That's aggressive to me. It's calculated. I know what I'm doing, and now I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do it. I'm going to get off my ass. I'm going to get in that building. I'm going to go into that searchable space. And then, because a lot of people throw around, oh, that's not survivable. That's not up to me. That's up to God and whoever you talk to, right? My job is to get in that. My job is to get in that searchable space, bring you out, and then that's between you and the man upstairs if it's survivable. But we need to get in there and we need to search, and that's what's being aggressive. Is training to be able to do that on a daily basis.
Oh, dude, without a doubt, our job is not, we can't play God. Our job is to go in and do what we vowed to do to our residents, and no questions about it. And it is not, I couldn't have said that better, man. That's awesome. All right, everyone, that wraps it up for today. It's time for our par check. We've talked about faith and duty on the fire ground, the kind of approachable leadership that earns trust, and why the firefighter mindset means leaning into the hard conversations. It appears as though everybody's accounted for, and it's time to pick up this conversation in part 2. As always, if something today hit home, don't just sit with it, share it, act on it, and be the kind of leader someone else is praying for. Lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until next time, guys, stay safe.